So, welcome everyone to the third guest lecture of Machine Learning 1 course. And today we have with us Dr. Dilip Prasad. He is a associate professor at Department of Computer Science, the Arctic University of Norway. And the more exciting thing about him is that he is one of us. He is an alumni of the institute, and he has been very actively engaging with the students at the institute. So it's nice to have him today with us in the lecture. And before I really give the stage to Dr. Prasad, it would be nice to also give a formal introduction about him. So he's an associate professor at the Department of Computer Science, the Arctic University of Norway. He received his PhD degree from the Nanyang Technological University in Singapore and the BTech degree in Computer Science from Indian Institute of Technology, ISM Dhanbad. We know, of course, this. He was a senior research fellow at NTU Singapore for 4 years and then a research fellow at NUS in Singapore. Prior to his PhD, he has worked for 5 years with IBM, Infosys, MediaTek, and Philips. He has been selected as a fellow for Kaufman Global Scholarship in 2011, for which he was trained in entrepreneurship at Harvard University, MIT, Stanford, and the Kaufman Foundation. He has been awarded with Rolls-Royce Inventor Award in 2016, and he has published 90 plus international peer-reviewed research articles. His current research interests include image processing, machine learning, and AI. And so I guess there's a lot to learn from him. I guess this guest lecture might not be enough, but at least this might be a good start. So I would like to invite Dr. Prasad to start the lecture. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Deepak, for the nice introduction. Okay, yeah, you are right that after doing so many work, it is hard to concise it in short time, but I tried to create something. So let me share my screen. Is it visible?
Not yet. I think it's, yeah, now it's visible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, it is visible.
And am I audible?
Yeah, very clearly.
So am I visible also?
Yes, sir.
Can you all see?
Is also visible.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Deepak and Kaustav, for arranging this invited guest lecture on the topic of machine learning. So as Dr. Deep has introduced that I am the alumni of ISM Dhanbad, so ISMites are dynamite. And today I will be talking about physics-based artificial intelligence and 101, because in a very short time I am going to talk on quite a few topics. And given the general audience will be less equation oriented, more concept oriented. So I hope my lecture helps your future research activity and also industrial activity. So to begin with, I have been a founding member of this BioAI lab at UIT, and our lab is getting funded by UIT, then the DECO, European Union, and Research Council Norway. So what is this BioAI lab about? So BioAI lab means the things, biological signals originating from humans, animals, both at the organism level, at the organ level, and tissue level, and as well as at the cell level. And combining all this means using AI to solve various problems related to different kind of signals coming from the humans and animals is going to be the part of the BioAI lab. So in a BioAI lab, we do research activity on topics related to biological signals and using application of AI or developing a new AI. What we work about. So there are three things only I am mentioning here. One is the computer vision for diagnosis of different kind of diseases using the different kind of data generated by microscope or CT scan or PET scan or different kind of diagnosis devices. The image you see is a OCT image, and also the physics-based AI for microscopy and nanoscopy, psychological health analysis using AI, And there are other topics are also there, like bio-inspired evolutionary optimization, where the bio-inspired optimization techniques can be used to solve the problem related to research activities. Developing a new machine learning architecture like interpretable AI, scalable AI. Currently, the AI architectures are fixed, that you have to define input space and output space in the beginning. After the definition, there is no way we can change. If a new kind of new data comes in your input space or new type of input features come. So we are trying to develop the scalable AI technique, and also the explainability or interpretability is a very important topic. We are also having our developed AI technique interpretable. Further, we are working on this geometric based simulator, where we are developing this dynamic complex environment through which where the drones can be used to design and generate the ground truth for a dynamic complex environment, where multiple drones with couple of drones will learn from each other about the situation they are encountering, and they can share with each other. It is a scenario similar to autonomous car. If autonomous car has to run, then it has to learn from other autonomous car or agent to have a better viability of the autonomous system. So these are the few things we are working. There are a couple of other things are there, but assume that we are working on this topic. So in AI, in the modern AI, all this today's talk I will be giving is about the modern AI, which is after 2012 when the deep learning got invented. So in general, AI system, which is a modern AI system, is a data-driven system. You need a lot of data. And what we do it, we have an input space where we have the data from, we give as an input, and there is an output space where we model it for a different kind of AI problem that can be like classifying the input or predicting or regression analysis of the input in the output space, right? How we do it? In between we have a model. So basically we model one space to other space, and in between there is a model architecture which is getting trained to get model between input and output space. And in between we have intermediate features, which can be a CNN feature, which can be other deep learning feature or other type of features. Now many innovation is happening, so we have intermediate feature in between. And what we are minimizing it, there is a error between an predicted output and actually the ground truth for that particular input, and that loss is getting minimized using the loss function. And so practically we need a tons of input sample, and which with the labels in the output sample to model this intermediate feature, so that in future any new data comes, then the model can predict or tell what will be the output related to this particular input. So practically this is what modern AI is, and I am sure most of you will know that this is what the modern AI is. Now where does the physics-based AI comes? Now if you think in this particular architecture, if you just give the input and just take the output, and the basic loss function used by the system like stochastic gradient descent or L1 loss or L2 loss, those are the basic loss function. If we consider it that much, this is good if we are working on computer vision problem, and in computer vision scientists are very happy to use it. But when we come to our scientific problems or medical problems or environmental problems or modeling the environment or climate, then we do not want black box. The scientists want something which is modeling their environment or modeling their domain. They know that this is designed as per their mean. Either we provide the explainability of our model, or there is a way to integrate the domain knowledge inside the AI system. And currently there are these 5 different ways that physics-based knowledge can be integrated into the AI to get a much better output or outcome of our AI system. These are the loss function, architecture, data generation, feature space, initialization. So let's see one by one what are all they. So as you see, this particular paper talks about that physics informed neural network can be extremely useful for accelerating research in photonics by getting a simulation data or by reconstructing the sparse data. So people are, it is not me who is talking about physics-based AI. Quite many researchers are actually using the physics concept inside the AI to get much better output. And at the moment, quite a momentum going on in these 5 different areas. And this has been also been done via different way, like designing the loss function. So let's see what is physics-based concept is used in designing the loss function. So while designing the loss function, function redesign or constraining the solution space is considered. Has been greatly recognized by the Nature main article. This has been published last year by the Nature. It is a review article which actually says that physics-driven constraint can be integrated in the training the loss function to get actually the physical terms and getting inference from the AI. And this review article is with the focus area of deep optics and photonics. And when the main Nature is realizing that this is a very interesting area, so we can understand that physics-based AI is taking the momentum. Let's go a little deeper, right? So this particular research team, this paper actually talks about using deep learning for doing the diffraction phase imaging. So you probably have known the holography, where a 3D hologram of the person, in many movies you have seen, including the Star Wars. So this is the halo-free white light diffraction phase imaging, where they are actually using physics to get not the image, to actually get the parameter of the this microscopy systems, and the parameter they are reconstructing is phase. So the measured, they are using this neural network thing, and using this physics-based concept, they are actually reconstructing the parameter, not the image. So we should not be only limiting to the image. A parameter also, physical parameters also can be reconstructed, and in this case they are using phase reconstruction. So in a signal we do have two kind of thing. One is a phase, other one is the intensity. So intensity reconstruction, people have done it, but they have done the phase reconstruction, which is a very hard problem to do it. How they have done it? They didn't design a new loss function, but they have designed this, they use simple the L2 loss function, but they use this output space regeneration, where the output space is a physical parameter, not the image. And with that they are able to get reasonably good output in phase reconstruction using AI technique. There is another research activity where what they are doing is they are actually getting, their aim is to get reflection coefficient, and there are many layers in this problem in the material science. What could be the material, different layers, and what is the thickness of those layers? That is their problem. And if they can determine, then they can get the reflection coefficient. And this is a very interesting problem where they have to reconstruct or predict what is the thickness of the different layers used and what is the refractive index, which is the parameter of those materials. What they have done, they actually first used this physics-based concept and use a simple ResNet architecture to generate this thickness T and refractive index N. And after that, they simply didn't stop it. They used this actual mathematical solver called TMM solver to get this reflection spectra, and from that they generated this loss function. So now scientists are actually utilizing this AI in a very strong way. They are just not restricting it as an input and output space mapping. They are actually using their own domain knowledge to utilize this AI in a much better way. So here what they did, they got prediction of this thickness and refractive index, and they used this physics-based solver, and with that they get the reflection spectra, and that loss function is feedback to get their model optimized. This is work from our own lab. What we are doing is, so this is a space where there is an object in center and there are many radars are placed around it. And what this radar does, it measures the scattered incidence field. It measures the scattered field. So when you think about the scattered field, what scattered field in the far we get is actually the far field measurement. So we get this far field data, but there are many things happening in the near field. Is my cursor is visible? Is my mouse movement is visible?
Yeah, it's visible.
So the near field, it is not, the radar is not able to get, and a lot of information is there in the near field, and the radar only measured the far field measurement. There are some research work who has done the far field measurement, and they have able to get this internal object of interest. So what we are doing is physics guided neural network solver for solving this inverse scattering problem. How we have done it, and you can see the underline, wherever you find underline, it is ISM bachelor or master students who are doing this work. So we didn't made any, so if you take the simple L2 loss function, and this particular component will be basically the far field measurement. And what we did, we modified this loss function to include this near field information, model this loss function where the induced current can be modeled here, and this one is the previous L2 loss function or loss data, and this is the induced current. Now if we simply use this one, which is this L2 loss, you can see the reconstruction is not okay. And this is BIM is a new technique which actually incorporate the inverse solving method to reconstruct the near field as well. So instead of using this as information here, we simply use the back propagation normal and this one, combine this to get our this kind of measurement. So you can see the output is much better, and what we have used the physics concept of induced current, and that Green function and other has been integrated inside the loss function to get much better reconstruction, and we are able to get much better job. So function redesign or constraining the solution space are one of the way to do it. The another thing which we have done in getting the loss function is that, like, we have a microscope of different type. There are bright field microscope, and if you see the bright field actually is without adding any labeling agent, it look like this, very gray and not it's very difficult to find information. And there is a microscope where we add a tagging element, the labeling agent, and that labeling agent after adding, if we measure using the microscope, then they will be generating the energy and it will be visible in the microscope, and that data is known as fluorescent microscopy data. But adding those chemicals can harm the cell environment. We are doing this in the cell data. So this is actually a rat cell data, heart cell of the rat data, where the mitochondria has been labeled using the tagging element. So using the concept of physics, we actually did this, that we get a bright field data and can we get a fluorescent data out of it. So, and this can be done using the general adversarial network, like GAN type of network. But if we use simple the adversarial loss or L2 loss of the deep learning model, we are going to get not so good results. So this is a real data and this is a generated data, and using the general concept like L1 loss, we were getting a lot of noise. The thing what we found was that the deep model were actually learning more the background rather than the foreground, and in our experimental data the foreground information is less, more is the background. So what we did, we know that there is a deconvolution function comes with every microscope system, and if we deconvolve the data using that function, deconvolution can actually improve the input data and it actually do a better contrast and better resolution. So in that case the background is suppressed and foreground is available, and that with a specially designed PSF loss function, and PSF is a point spread function of a microscope, we can get much better this mapping of it. So we were getting this, but using the concept of physics integrated inside this function redesign, the loss function redesign, we are able to get much better reasonable job. So in summary of using physics-based concept in generating or designing the loss function, instead of using the simple VGG net or any XXNet feature or simple annual N2 loss function on output image, loss function can be a physical output parameter. Means we should not be only thinking from a point of view that it is an image. We also can think that loss function can be designed using the physical parameters. Further, loss function may be defined on some physical quantity. As we did it here, we integrated the PSF loss, and in the previous we integrated the induced current, right? So some other thing can be integrated in the loss function. There are some research activity happening where people are designing the loss function, and in computer vision they are using this contrast loss or context loss, all these things. So using the concept of physics, a loss function can be designed depending on the field or domain you are working on. Further, as we saw, we actually weighted the loss function with the concept of physics by deconvolving it. And using the weighted, then we can actually get a better physical aspect of the problem. And we also can use a regularizer to make a loss function, right? So this was a summary of that. Rather than simply thinking that a deep learning model to model input and output, we can use the concept of our domain to actually attack the problem with the concept of physics. Next comes this architecture, designing. How can we design a better architecture with the concept of physics or the physics concept of the domain we are working on? Everyone is working on something like geology, geoexploration, petrochemicals, electromagnetics, satellite. A lot of things are there. So can we use the domain concept of physics to redesign or design a new type of architecture? So while designing an architecture, it can go, now concept is that get a deeper and deeper deep learning architecture to get a better and better job. But architecture, rather than going deeper, can be a shallow depending on the field we are working on. And instead of using only a deeper network, we can also use a saliency or attention. Like as you can see that we have used this PSF loss function to get a better foreground. Another thing could have been used is getting an attention on it, but the attention concept we have used in other places. So in this particular work, this is in collaboration with IIT Delhi, and a PhD student from IIT Delhi was getting supervised with me. And their problem is that they have this OCT data of breast tissue, and what happens, the doctor there in the surgery table, they have to actually take the tissue sample out of it, and in the microscope they have to view it and tell whether that particular portion, small tissue, they take it and see that whether it is a cancerous or not. Not everything is available, but when do a surgery of a cancer treatment, they need to find that they should not be damaging a normal tissue, and they should be taking out only the cancerous or a disease area. And in that kind of very stressful, where you have opened the body and getting the bloods and everything going out, and you are taking the sample and viewing it, it requires a lot of love. We developed this deep learning model where we went shallow. We only use 2 layers of convolution feature and with less number of filters. Why did we use? Because as we see, this data is actually a very less contrast is there, not much intensity variation is there. So if we go deeper, we were doing the overfitting, and the features contained here is very less. So that is also a thing will make us network sensitive. So we went very 2 layers and 1 fully connected layer and only 5 kernel filters, and with that we were getting the 99.9 accuracy. So we can think that can we design the architecture based on the domain we are working on. Another thing we did, this is a last year CVPR paper, so where also we did architecture redesign based on our domain. So what we had this microscope data with different, and in that we have the mitochondria, we have the vesicles in the organelles inside the cell, and those are the live video data taken by the bright field microscope. And if we use this to find out what kind of motion they are doing it, and the motion this organelle does is so micro that even if we go sub-second, we won't be able to see the motion. Now if we simply pass this data as a video, then we can use a 3D deep net, but then 3D deep net is the video will have so much area, and we are interested only in the micro motion. So what we did, we actually converted our 3D input space to a nanoscopy data, which is a 2D space, and we used one physics based algorithm to convert this 3D space into 2D space, and that algorithm preserved the motion of the video. So anything happening in that video, and if it has a fluctuation, means change in the intensity, then that algorithm can preserve the motion. And when we preserve the motion, then it was an easy job for classifier to classify the different kind of motion the vesicles were happening. But to do that, see, this kind of motions were there: circular, random, flow, stationary, and since the motion had been preserved, so it was easy for the deep network or neural network to classify it. But here we also did additional task, like instead of using simple deep network, we actually use the concept of attention, and we went shallow. So a ResNet has been used, but a shallow ResNet with attention has been used to actually predict the different kind of motion of a vesicle. And vesicles are actually very small in size, around 80 nanometer or 50 nanometer to 200, 300 nanometer. So summary is that we should understand the physical aspect of the problem. Blindly just download, this is the transformer coming, this CVPR or this NIPS, just apply the transformer. We should avoid doing that. We should understand the physical aspect of the problem, and we can include and exclude architectural element accordingly. As we can see in the next also, like feature space redesigning. Can we redesign the feature space using the physics of the problem? And feature space redesign can be input as well as the output. So same coming back to this thing. We had this video, right, and region of interest is there in the video, and we wanted to classify the motion. So if we simply put the video in it, it won't be doing because the motion were very micro. So we use this motion preserving nanoscopy algorithm to convert into 2D, and then we just pass it to the shallow attention resonate architecture, and we were able to do it. Going back to the previous thing also, where actually we use this design the loss function, we also what we did, we redesigned the feature space. So in this particular case, where our aim is to also construct the near field, we instead of using measured signal, refractive index estimate was used in the input space. So we actually estimated the refractive index, and that it allowed to use image like feature. So our feature space was not image, it was the scattered field, which was not an image, but converting into the refractive index problem by modifying the input space, we are able to get the image kind of structures, and with that we are able to get the near field as well. So far field had the linear portion. So what we did, we actually get an initial estimate from the far field and then modify the problem to get the estimate of the near field. So this kind of feature space modeling can be used also, and with also the knowledge of physics should be there. So strong domain knowledge should be there to actually able to modify the existing AI architecture or AI model to be used for your problem. For doing this, other paper has also worked. So they have used the far field or the induced current estimate, but constructing an image of like input feature is considered a very important problem. It's like, can we get an input kind of feature, which we were able to do it like this, so that we can use this AI model more efficiently. Feature space modification can also be done, like has been applied by this undergrad from Jadavpur University, and he was working with us on this EEG data. So EEG is a measurement device to measure the brain activity of the people or animal. So we have worked on the people. So by not passing the EEG data directly, the EEG data are very noisy. In this case, we understand the problem of the particular model, the domain, and we modify the feature space so that we can better use the AI method efficiently. So here the better selection of input feature have been used, and also the new AI architecture has been proposed to get this task done. So the input space modification is that knowing the domain, like the signal gives data from 0.5 to 40 Hertz, but the important data in the active state is between 8 to 35 Hertz. So we choose those data from transferring the EEG data into Fourier domain and extracting those frequency from it and using those input feature for getting the feature rather than simply passing the raw data as it is. So, and further the channel selection was also been done. So knowing the domain, that what actually be important. So it gives 19 different kind of feature, and from 19 feature both alpha and beta waves can be extracted, but not all 19 is important for the domain or problem we are working, only selecting the channel which actually affect the problem, and signal post processing is done, and that helped to get a job very effectively done and use AI efficiently. In summary, most engineering is done on the input space, but we also can do sometime intermediate feature modification in the intermediate feature, latent space modification, and as well as output space modification can be designed in a different way depending on the physics of a particular domain. And since a student from the IIT Dhanbad working in a diverse kind of area, you will understand that why the physics is important in your domain. And it is often going to impact what choice of architecture we are using. Blindly, not everything is going to work. So understanding the physics of your problem can help you sometimes choose a better architecture and a better outcome. It will also impact how a physics model can, what part of the physics model we can concentrate on. And this may help in impacting the convergence and robustness to noise, and as well as fast reducing the cost function. It is sometimes difficult to design a loss function which is suited to the problems. So sometimes feature space redesigning can be a better way, or architecture choice can be a better way. It is not always possible to design a better loss function. So there are many areas are there where a concept of physics can be used. Then comes the initialization. So initialization means initialization of the model parameters which we are using it. Initialization of the input to the model, like initialization of the model parameter, I guess a lot of people are using in a transfer learning. An architecture has been trained in some place and been took the pre-trained model and retrain on a new kind of problem and get the work done. But that initialization of the model parameter can also involve the concept of physics, like we did in this our recent Nature Machine Intelligence paper. So in this, what we did, we found that if we take simply a pre-trained data, this is a segmentation problem where we have used the concept of physics. A lot of concept of physics are there. One of the concept is the model parameter initialization. We did many things, like we took a pre-trained data from and did a transfer learning, retrained using real ground truth data, and retrained using physics-based simulated data. And we found that better initialization of the model parameter is one of the key to get a better output. So simply pre-train on something else was really not helping, but using a better physics-based retraining actually helped a lot. As we can see that if you simply use the no initialization, just take the scratch data and train using the manually annotated. The result was mean IOU result was 0.48. If we take the ImageNet based pre-trained data and manually annotate it and use the manual annotated data for retraining it, we got this mean IOU 6.1. But when we use the physics-based simulated data based training and then retrain using the manual annotation data, then we found that result greatly improved. So what the point is that the initialization of the better parameter of your model is going to be useful. In this particular problem also, we use this initialization of the model parameter. As you know that we actually modified our domain space. Instead of getting the scattered field, and from that we got this induced current integrated into the loss function. And we also use the synthetically simulated data to get the better model. If we have used a physics-based trained model, which actually reconstruct the near field, it would have caused the overfitting. But simply using the basic thing, which actually give the far field, and using the modified loss function, it given us the better no overfitting was there. So in summary, if we are using the transfer learning, we can choose a better pre-trained model from the same or analogous physical problem. Features will be already inherited, and if it matches the physical characteristics of the problem, then it is going to give a better result. And recently paper has came out where they use pre-trained model trained on a city landscape on a kitty dataset, and then they retrain using the cityscape dataset. They found that the result is better than if they simply use the ImageNet pre-trained model. When using the initialization of the input, we can consider how simple but physically relevant input can be, leaving all the scope for AI to do a good job, but constraining the space for better and faster convergence. So having a better initialization can help the AI to get a better convergence and faster convergence. Now comes the data generation. This is data generation, means can we get physics-based data generation for our AI problem. For certain domain, generating the ground truth, means labels, is very tough. For example, microscopy, as you see in this data. This is one image of a live cell data. There are two cells are there. If we have to manually annotate each and every green looking thing, it is going to take 3 hours for a cell. And if we want a 10,000 image, first of all, getting a 10,000 diverse experiment on a cell is a very tough problem. One cell experiment can take 3 weeks. Multiple times we have to do to get a better result. And then if you want to get 5,000 or 1,000 different data, then it is going to take a year or two to get just the data. And then use 3 hours per image. So it is going to take few years job. Same goes with astronomy, geology, climate, and even if a human does this manual annotation, often the task is not easy to do it, as we can see from here. So here you see this is a simple mitochondria is given, which in the microscope get. So this is a physics-based simulated data. Real ground truth is this, and we recruited 12 scientists from different expertise like microscopists, biologists, data scientists. As we can see, the performance of this manual annotation is not so good by different people. So even if we put the time, getting the real ground truth is going to be the hard for a ground truth hard problem. And in that scenario, we can use this physics-based simulation where we can model this is a mitochondria model, and then the fluorescent tagging element is placed based on the concept of physics, how they emit the data, what frequency they emit. All this if we model, then it can give, and this is a real data, real microscope data, which you see in the right side. So then this we can generate a synthetic data set, which is a simulation supervised data set. But one has to know the concept of physics very well. And using, instead of, if we go by expert annotating it, we went simulation engine to annotate it, and then we trained it and then applied on the real data, and we see performance is amazing. So simulation data we can work on, provided we know the domain and we can model it pretty well. Why the annotating is hard? If we see, if we simulate, we know where is the ground truth. But if we do not simulate, in this case, the scientists, if manually annotate, they will be not doing the correct job. So for a ground truth hard problem, if physical models, it can be modeled, it is better to get a simulation supervised data and do the AI training with it. And in this case, we will get non-ambiguous ground truth, and the AI will learn what it should be supposed to learn, not the error, right? Now we used a similar synthetic concept. What we did, we simply used this, the Fourier ptychography is a type of microscope, as a special type of microscope where we use this general internet data to train the model. because we were interested to learning the diverse type of texture, and once it is obtained, then a deep learning model is trained, and after that it is working very nice. So a simulator is simulated using this ground truth data, and that is used to train our deep learning model to get really wonderful job. And again, this is a work done by our ISM student, undergraduate, and he has joined us as a master student in our team. So general internet image is used to train it, to model it, and then a better job is done using the real data. This in microscopy, when we work in the nanoscopy or microscopy, a lot of time the reconstruction algorithm is used, which is based on physics. But still they give artifact because there will be some error, and you can see the artifacts are there. But we use this simulation supervised data because we have the model, and we train the model well. So after that, we apply to the artifact real data, and we got the really nice looking artifact free data. And again, this is done by the undergrad from IIT ISM Dhanbad. So attacking the AI problem from physics based concept from multiple way. There are many ways are there. One of the way is data generation using simulation supervised, which is actually amenable. This concept can be also be useful for other AI problem. Your results will be only as accurate as your simulation. So if your simulation is good, you know the domain, you can model the domain as closely as possible, then your outcome will be as good as possible. This is our team, and this is not the work of my alone. This is our team from BioAI Lab for this year 2021. We are hiring 5 more, and we have a collaborator also work is involved here from University Hospital Norway, IIT Delhi, Barcelona, IFOM, University Hospital Hamburg, Harvard, MIT, many places are there. So with this, I would like to say thank you, and I'm open for question. If you want to visit our lab, you can use this QR code. Thank you, Dr. Deepak.
Thank you, Dr.
If any
Prasad. That was really a nice presentation.
Thank you.
And also a very exciting QR code. Okay, so maybe it's. Can you mute yourself because I'm hearing my voice?
Yeah, I will be muting myself.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess there will be questions. So guys, if you have any questions, please raise your hands here, and then I can invite one by one. I mean, it can be any question. You don't have to really think of. Okay, so we have first Akash. Akash, maybe you can go ahead.
So when you talked about the initialization problem, so how do we deduce the method to do the input initialization given the physics problem we have?
It is a very good question. Lot of time we actually simply take the pre-trained model, because transfer learning, when you start studying ML or deep learning, you usually start with computer vision data and problem, right? And there you find that, okay, transfer learning is so good. Initialization of a deep network itself is an interesting area. There are many ways to even initialize the ImageNet base or ResNet architecture or this architecture. So here we have done this initialization with our simulation supervised way, and if you don't know the domain, and going by the pre-trained is a better way. Choosing the better input image of your domain can be one way to actually do a better initialization. Is that answer your question?
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay, so if it is clear to you, Akash, then we move to the next question from Kushagra.
Yes, sir. I wanted to ask, when you are taking all the factors or the input variables, you can say, what method you were using to take out the relevant input variables and leave out the irrelevant input variables.
You mean to say the feature space, right?
Yes, yes.
If we go for our feature space topic, right? This is one of the feature space thing. This one, I have to go to the previous thing. So in this case, we are actually converting the scattered field data. That is what radar is measuring. But then using the concept of physics, modeling it, we are getting the intermediate, the induced current space, and that space is actually used to get this kind of image data, and that has been used for training it. So this is one example of it. And in this case also, we had 3D video data, and so we had actually a 2D video data, which actually if we use the video, it will be a 3D data. So we, instead of using the 3D data for simply calling the residual attention network and training it, we actually converted this into a 2D data by applying intermediate, the nanoscopy reconstruction algorithm, which is a physics-based algorithm which preserved the motion, because our target was to do the motion classification. So we actually got this motion preserved input data, and that has been used to train our shallow residual attention network, and that how we are able to do this modification of the feature space.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so the next question is from Kostov.
Hello, sir. Sir, I was wondering whether this loss function, while calculating loss function that incorporate physics in it, does it slows down the convergence?
That is a very interesting idea, you know. Currently,
Actually, yes, sir.
Can you hear
Actually,
me?
yes, sir.
So if you are changing the loss function, you know, depending on how you might have seen certain work where 3, 4, 5 different loss function they are using it. And if you see their ablation study, you may find that maybe just not every loss function is improving it. So adding more loss function can increase your computation time, but not using the wrong loss function can also do the misconvergence.
Okay.
So using the better loss function depending on your problem is, I think, the better way, and that we have seen all the time whenever we have modified the loss function based on the physics concept. Is that answer your question, Kostov?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Can you give an example of the change in the loss function?
You want to see the example of change in the loss function, right?
Yeah. Like
if you go here, this is a loss function change where whatever was coming, this was a scattered field using this L1 loss, L2 loss. We actually modified the loss function by adding this induced current parameter, and you can see there is a regularizer beta is here on top of it, and this is how we have modified this loss function using the concept of physics. Is that okay?
So this is also inside. You can say is this inside the feature space or?
This will be this also the modification of the feature space, and also this is in the loss function, you know.
Okay.
So this particular paper is under review, so you won't be able to see, otherwise I would have shared with you.
Does it answer your question, Akash? or do you still have a question because your hand is still raised there?
Sir, I have another question.
Okay, go ahead. As long as we don't have, oh, guys, anybody else, if you have questions, please raise your hand. I mean, this is the time. Akash, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, sir. So when you talked about changing the feature space of the input dimension, so we know about what we are inputting, so we can deduce what can be important or what can be not. But since we do not have a lot of intuition about the features generated by intermediate layers, how do we choose what feature of intermediate generated by intermediate layers can be important and what can be not?
See, your question is very important. If you are using, let's say, 10 intermediate layers, and that intermediate layers are also generating features. Finally, you are doing the evaluation at the last layer, right, where you are using the softmax function. Now, intermediate layer, like people have tried a lot of way to get the better intermediate layer. Knowing the domain better can actually help you. If you go, knowing the domain better can actually help you. In this problem itself, we actually know the domain pretty well, and that's why we are able to modify this our feature space, and as well as the internal feature space. As you go here, they actually got up to this using the general deep net, and after that they use this to get modify this intermediate feature space by applying the physics of the model, and then getting this loss function and give it back. So knowing the domain is going to be useful. That's what, if you want to apply the physics, you should be knowing the physics of the domain.
Okay, sir.
Can I interject? In as you said, in near field, far field. So I'm not in the field. I'm in the communication field. I did my BTech in electronics communication. So we had like if for an antenna, if it is radiation, there'll be far field as well as near field, right? So we can calculate if we have the far field, we can calculate the near field. So you are doing something like that, correct? And putting that far field correct, you are muting.
So in this case, if you are talking about the antenna, then I think you know about the Green's function.
Yes, yes.
So that modeling the space and getting the proper Green function, and that's how the induced currents are estimated, and that is being fed into the modification of the feature space as well as the loss function.
Yes.
So you are right. That is how we are getting.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks Akash for the nice and thorough question, and thanks Dilip sir for the answer. I guess there is no one else with a question, so I guess it is very clear to the rest of the students. I have a very broad question. I have also been working on similar problems, but for a different domain. So I'm curious, what are the current limitations faced by the domain of physics constrained AI?
So is a very good question, Deepak. I know you know the problem pretty well.
I mean, from a broader level, I understand that structuring the deep learning architecture in itself is the biggest challenge. At least that's what I feel.
So consider this, right? We actually did a simulation data, right? We generated the simulation data here. If we go, we actually generated the simulation data, right? So the model where especially we are working in a problem, just give you an overview of a problem where there is no microscope which can actually see inside the cell organelle level live. Okay, there is no microscope available. If you want to see inside the cell has to be damaged. We have electron microscope, but electron microscope is like a camera. It only takes one snap of a particular state. You cannot take a live data. So in this, we know the model of mitochondria, we know the vesicles, but there are many organelles inside the cell, Some of the cell organelle, even the biologists have no idea how they look like and what will be the parameter. So that can be a big limitation if we want to simulate everything for the cell organelle. So currently we are trying to find what other way we can do it. There are ways like using the GAN to get the synthetically data from the generator architecture. We have tried, but we got a better result using our synthetic data that also was giving good one. So we are currently finding, so getting this physics-based data generation has its limitation of not everything we can model and not everything we know the model.
Okay, that is quite clear. And do you also incorporate the physics engine in the training part, or you first generate? In all cases, you just generate the data first and then train the model.
We generate the data first and then we train the model. But if you can fully convert it, but data generation has to be there first.
Okay. Our discussion has motivated Devansh for a question, so I hope you are not getting late. We will have one or two more questions.
No, it's okay, no problem.
Yeah, Devansh, go ahead.
Hello, am I audible, sir?
Yes. You're audible.
Yes, sir. I had a question that you are saying that the size goes to 80 to 90 to 90 nanometers. Sir, this is the size where quantum effects come into play. So, is that affects the time of generating data? Means we have to do quantum level computation and not classical. So.
You are asking certain questions, so let me, it is a very good question. So if you see this particular data, right, when we have a microscope, right, and microscope, everything you take the data as an image, right, and that image, what is a microscope or a camera? It is a light measuring device. So data coming from the lens and it is getting measured in the sensor behind it. So in a microscope, general microscope, the size of the pixel depend on what is the size of your sensor and also the optical condition of the microscope. So one pixel in the bright field microscope is actually 80 nanometer. And your size of a mitochondria can vary from 100 to 200 nanometer. A vesicle can vary from 50 to 300 nanometer. So mistaking one pixel to other pixel, if I increase one pixel extra, a vesicle will look like a mitochondria. Or if we make 2 pixel mistake, then we might be looking something else. So your question is that quanta effect. So in that case, we are working on actually getting the data, means we are simulating how these different labels get attached and reading the data sheet of this different company which is providing the labels, what emission spectra they are generating, and also knowing what is our microscope lens parameter, numerical aperture. All this has been taken into the consideration, and with that we are simulating the data. Quantum kind of effect, I do think, may happen lower than that. We have not simulated the quantum effect inside it.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. One more question, sir. I have that you are trying to generate model based on physics and then training it to get AI model. So, isn't there anything that is there any research in which we have lots of data in which we put AI model and generate our means a model of physics?
So,
generation.
Your name is?
Sir
Devesh. You have asked a very relevant question. So recently there is, if you go see multi-cryo-GAN ECCV 2020 paper, in that they have used the GAN-based network, and they are using this generated data. If you know the GAN, you will know. So generator generates certain data and discriminate. So in a GAN you have a generator and discriminator. Generator is trying to fool the discriminator and discriminator is trying to catch. So generator is going to generate fake kind of data and discriminator will tell it is right or wrong. So in the multi-cryo-GAN, they have used this generator data to get a lot of training data. So that I think can be helpful to you. You can try whether it works for your domain or not. So in that you need certain small input data, and with that data you can generate certain fake data which via the generator, and that can be used for training without even knowing the physical model of your problem.
Sir, can you put in
Okay,
chat
sir.
where can we get that?
What you saying?
Sir, can you put in chat where can we get that generator in?
Chat. Okay. Let me see where is the chat window.
Not sure if you can post it because there is some issue with Teams for
So
external.
you can write it multi-cryo-GAN ECCV 2020, and if you search it in your system, you will get it. Multi is MULTI, and cryo means CRYO, and GAN GAN.
Got it, sir. Got it.
You have to understand the loss function used in that paper. That is very essential.
Okay, Devansh, in the spirit of time, I would like to ask if it is clear to you and has
Yes,
it
sir.
answered?
Clear, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, perfect. So we will entertain one last question from Kostov again.
Yeah.
Kostov, yeah, I guess that what motivates Kostov with the question. So let's see what the next question
Yes.
is.
Yes, sir. Sir, as Deepak sir told that I'm from geophysics background, and in geophysics we have a problem with the level data. We have a scarcity of level data. So does it creates a problem in physics informed neural networks?
Yes, it is going to create problem if you do not have sufficiently good level data. There are people are trying to find how can they overcome this problem.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess we are done with the questions. But before we close the session, I would like to also ask Dilip sir if he has any short advice for the students of ISM, because right now in ISM there is a lot of AI research going on from the side of the students. I'm really surprised with the level of the students that is there in ISM with the third year students. I mean, you have also been working with them. I can see already the underlines are bachelor students and master students of ISM. But I mean, I have seen other universities and the level at which the ISM students are doing now, it is really great. And since you're quite experienced in AI as well, I would like you to give some advice to them.
Yeah, that is indeed true, Deepak, that the ISM, the last 3 years I'm interacting with students, and they are themselves doing a lot of great activity in machine learning and AI topic, and winning many challenges and competition, and getting top end papers in really a high end journal and conferences.
Yeah. I mean, the students are doing really great, and I mean, we had like last year we had 3 students. I mean, no other faculty member from anywhere. We had a nice paper in ICLR, which
Yeah,
in
I know
itself,
Buddha Bamba.
yeah. I mean, that was there, and then we also have right now ICLR submission this year as well with 2 different students. Yeah.
So
Anyways, I think yeah. Sorry.
your Bamba is coming here for he's doing his master thesis in Norway from
Yes.
January.
I know. I have been in interacting with him. So
Yeah.
uh, right now he's stuck in Sikkim with some landslide.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so thanks for the lecture. I think it was very interesting, and also the students have liked it. That's
Thank
my
you,
guess.
Deepak. Yeah, I hope inspiration they get, blind following of download a code and run. I think our student can avoid after this lecture, at least.
Yeah, and it would also be nice. I mean, it's great that you're coming to Dhanbad. Of course, I'm not there, but I might also be there in Dhanbad during the end of November or December, so we can also communicate and
Yeah, definitely.
uh,
Dr.
meet in
Deepak, we can communicate
person.
and
Yeah,
we can collaborate as well.
yeah, that would be nice. I mean, I think that it would be nice to work with you.
Yeah, it will be nice to me for me also.
Thank you, sir. Okay, then I think with this we can close the session.
Yep.
Thank you, sir, for the time, and thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye. Thank you,
Thank you.
student, for staying so
Bye.
late in the evening. Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much, sir.